With over 400 celebrity interviews and tons of pop culture nerdiness, Too Opinionated is a safe haven for your inner geek. Find us at meistercon.com or on YouTube under MeisterCon Pod. And please subscribe. It would really help us out. Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. I am just thrilled to death today. I've got celebrity home builder Scott Harris with me. So welcome, Scott.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here virtually.
Well, we have tried. This is like our third attempt to do this interview. It's all been my fault, and you have hung in there with me. So hopefully it lives up to the wait.
Third time is a charm, right? Come on.
Well,
and I'll be one of those characters in the background screaming.
That's right. Like that. That's right. That as a consolation prize, I could stick you in the background here.
All right. I want to be next to Chewbacca, please.
Oh, that's the perfect spot.
Yeah.
We'll just replace you in for Worf back there, maybe right above Chewbacca.
Yeah, right there, like opposite Rocky, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's the perfect spot. That's perfect spot. Well, and I shortchange you a little bit because I know you wear a lot of hats. You do so many different things, and we'll kind of get into that. But it's I don't know how you find the time to do everything you're doing.
I don't either yet. I haven't figured it out. I don't have the time to figure it out.
Well, Scott, so let's start this way. Talk a little bit about your background, what got you into the business you're in, and what it is you do.
I appreciate the way you started this because it's a society where you have to be in your lane. They always tell you, right? And
that's right.
If you're good at doing something, apparently that's the only thing you can do in life, and you can't really step out of it. So, as a child, I just liked making things and putting things together, and it's simple. I know a lot of kids like that, right? And never stopped doing that. I hear this little like in the background that's distracting me. I have OCD. But anyway, no, I just it's a journey that I started out when I was very young and never stopped doing it. And I found as long as I just do things well, it's kind of a situation where I never looked for a job, but if people have looked for me. I've never tried to, make someone believe what I do as well. I just do things well. And you find out at some point without looking back that it took you to the top. You're doing the Playboy Mansion, and you're on Fox News, and you're doing, homes for all these celebrities, and you're knocking on people's door, and they're like excited to meet you, and they're a celebrity, but you never met, like, whoa, wow, it's you. That's pretty cool, So I really, it's about just doing what I do. I'm not trying to be anybody special or different. I'm just trying to be me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's true. I mean, what made you want to get into, the business of building homes?
Kind of a longer story, but I'll try to make it short. But I didn't grow up in a great household, and I spent a lot of time being forced to be in my room. And just thought that if I somehow made that room a better space for me, maybe it was my coping mechanism, that somehow my family would be happier, I'd be happier. I mean, you put somebody in a cell, and what are you going to do, right? You just start looking at you start sharpening things, looking at the casing, we're spending a lifetime. So I found out that it was actually able to make it a better space. I started tearing the casing off and building cabinets for the room, and parents weren't there, so I would sneak out and just build something. And it was really interesting, though, to find out that the building a home, and making those subtle changes really did have an effect on my family's life. And so the reason that I do this is really my therapy. And it helps me build some validation in for what I've been through my whole life, right? And then as well, people pay me for it. So you can't say no thanks to that. I get to do what I like. I was just living a life of my own therapy. And it turns out that it's very therapeutic for others. So, I couldn't ask for more. Um, and a lot of it has to do though too with, connecting and just wanting to do the right thing for people. A lot of people get into this business to make money, and there's a lot easier ways to make money in this business, or in
Right.
this life, you know. So I never made it rich, but I think I made it very rich in what I've gained as far as becoming a person and a man.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the fact that you're trying to build spaces for people, that it's not just a house, it's a home. So it's a place they can go to relax and to kind of de-stress. And I think that's a really neat angle to do that. And have you been that way right from the beginning? When you were the first house that you ever built, was that the plan with it, or is that kind of a philosophy that's developed over time?
It's hindsight. It's a good question, but I mean, I just did it without thinking about it. The first house I ever built was my own, my parents' house when I was 5, starting, wasn't even in kindergarten yet, and started working on that. I think I finished that like around 13 or 14 years old, and, moved on to the other family's home. I made a few mistakes, sorry, Auntie Marilyn.
It's
Anyway,
a
you
learning
know,
curve.
yeah, but it was something that I just did without thinking about it. And then, what I like about doing these shows with people is it gives you time to reflect,
Yeah.
and meet people like you who ask really good questions, and it makes you kind of think uh outside the box a little bit and kind of get out of the world and realm of, handling clients or responses and emails, and so I feel like, even through doing these, it kind of helped me think more about why it is that I do this. So that's it's something was just like an instinctual something that happened naturally. By the way, do you need a house?
Well,
I mean, everybody needs one, just saying. There's some place to live. There's a lot of homeless people, but
well, yeah.
they
So we've got a house, but now if you want to come and fix it up a little bit, that's a different story.
oh, we aren't gonna fix it up. We're gonna rebuild.
Oh well, that's okay too. I'm
We're
sure
gonna
my wife would love that.
all right.
Fancy that. Fancy. I'll give you a little bit of our story. So I'm at that point to where I'm looking at what I'm doing, and I told you we went and we found us a building for our studio. Well, that building came with other people in it. So that put us into the management side of having renters and doing that thing. So then that kind of led us to purchasing a fixer upper that we got in way over our heads on. It turned out to be such a bigger job than what we had intended.
Aren't they
Which
fixer
is
downers and they're not fixer uppers?
oh my Oh my goodness. And that's kind of where I was getting to is when you look at, do you normally build from the ground up, or do you go in and say, okay, let's fix this, let's fix this one up? Because that one I think is it's a much dicier proposition, because you don't know exactly what you're getting into until you get into it.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. That's a great question. It's some on some degree, I say it's a fantasy, it's a dream. They're fixer downers. Really, there's nothing to be out about the whole thing.
That's
And
true.
these homes are made out of recyclable, biodegradable materials. The problem is they start to recycle on their own, before you even move in. You're lucky if
Right.
they last as long as your mortgage does. If the mold doesn't get at the insects you're going to, and the dry rot and the sun. And so, even best kept homes are just not usually built to a level where they can withstand a restoration. Um, and then you're dealing with a lot of times where sometimes the paint and the ants and everything are holding it together. It looks beautiful on the outside, and you open it up and you're like, oh God, what's hiding on this, that, you know, like I'll give you an example. We're doing, and it happens everywhere. We're doing a project by the Getty Museum,
Yeah.
Los Angeles. I mean, beautiful. I mean, I don't even want to go over that. the amount that the house was and the acreage and, I mean, it's just the home on the hill. It is the Mountain Hill house. Very wealthy person, beautiful home. We're looking at it today. We're trying to do some remodeling on some areas. It's a more or less new home. Taking down the retaining walls in the basement, and I see they have like dirt about this thick between the walls. Then they poured like that much concrete on top of the dirt, and they put the wire mesh just like underneath, the concrete, so it's just sitting in the dirt rotting, and you're just, oh gosh, look at that. And it's sad because that's what you find. There isn't you can't get a degree in construction, and at least there's construction management, but as far as it's really a mentorship, and a lot of times you're just kind of roll the dice, see what you
Yeah.
got, see what somebody felt like that day. It depends on how much the client wanted to spend. Like, hey, your slab should be 5 inches thick. You know what? Make it thin, half price, save some money. Who cares? And it's a lot of that out there still. So it's a lot of antiquated techniques and antiquated technologies, even though it's in many ways we've built it up, but you're still beholden to that, person who pulled up in a truck and did it that day. And you've seen it. So it's really not about big, tall, or small, or spending a lot of money. And so, I'd like to tell clients before they build homes that it is important to really consider that most of these homes are going to need to be taken down. I hate to say it, but the best clients are the ones that they contact you after they bought the house. They're like, well, look, what do you think? It's so-and-so's house. What do you think? You smell that? What? It's all right. No. We saw, oh my God, we saw someone that was this massive house we saw. It was so sad. I'm looking at the siding, right? And I've never seen this. It has like that lap board siding, right?
Yeah.
I mean, beautiful farmhouse, from the outside. And I'm there with my team, and I'm like, like, it's like striations, like little pieces of paper, when I started flicking the edge of it, right?
Yep.
Made it out of paper. It was recycled push paper. I'd never seen this. There was a class action lawsuit. So I looked it up before I said it. I hate to tell you this, that your entire house is made out of paper and it's coming apart. And so, we took some of it off, and then we found out, beautiful windows. They forgot to nail the windows in. There was these great videos. It's great. They're like, here's the window. It's just like, boom. And so it's sad. There's a lot of homes out there that aren't built well, or built with care and concern and love, and what do? You just you talk about it. You do one house at a time. But yeah, really challenging if you're out there on your own, just trying to pick one up, not to scare people, but that's reality.
It really is. And if you don't have any knowledge when it comes to building, you're very reliant on the people that you're contacting to do the work. So if you have somebody that cuts corners or that doesn't do things, exactly the way they should be done, a lot of times, just from experience, I can tell you that you're not going to know. And I think that's the majority of the people buying homes or fixing up homes. They don't have that knowledge. So if you're dealing with somebody that isn't quite above board, you can get in a bad way very quickly.
Yeah, or it's good for contractors, but yeah, it is unfortunate. There is a thing called building and safety that most municipalities have, but good luck. Here's the reality. I'm just telling you the truth. Like, even Los Angeles, they give you 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes per inspection, right? It's like you work an 8-hour day, you got an hour lunch, you got to drive there, and here's 16 inspections you're going to do and have lunch while you're doing it. Well, guess what? You're in, you're out. And, some of the homes we do, they're 20, 30, 40,000 square feet, and they're showing up. They're like, it's going to take you 10 minutes just to walk up the stairs. I'm just telling you. So, no, I think you just oh my God. Yeah. Thank you, Scott. We know you, and they do know us and they know me. So they sign off, but like, I mean, how many times is it happening when it's not there? So, um, you know, probably better. It's always easy to focus on the what went wrong, but I think it's
Right.
also to focus on how to fix these things. Um, and I think there needs to be a lot more awareness brought to these homes. And, and I think ideally homes are created in a way as something that should be made forever, right?
That's
And
right.
maybe that is something to be rethought. Our expectation of these homes that they live on forever. I mean, that's what we used to have with our dial-up phones, right? That's what we
Right.
used to have with the 57 Chevy, and Dad's Corvette, they're gonna last forever. Put that in the garage, Now it's like if you go past the 3-year lease payment, you're poor. Dad, really?
Yeah.
It's the same car, really? And so there is what is nice about that is the designed opulence, where the thing is um, constantly being upgraded, and it forces an industry to consistently redesign and come up with the next model. When it comes to homes, the recycle period is 30 to 50 years. So they really fell behind, versus phones and TVs. It's like every 1 to 2 seasons, you're putting out a new model. So we got to race to see what's new. And if you had
Right.
that impact on the housing industry, where they are somewhat of a recyclable pods, they drop them off, click them in, built with 3D printers. Guess what we have now? You would see such a dramatic change in the industry, but it's very antiquated right now. Um,
Yeah.
so
I
I
mean,
don't know.
don't you think that there should be more of a training ground for people building homes other than, well, I know a guy that builds them, so maybe he could teach me to build it.
And that's why in 2023, I'll be running for rebuildyourhome.com. I will be the mayor and president. But yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. It takes a bigger, uh, it takes a bigger thing. I actually had some people, and felt jokes aside, I had several influential people who are asking me to run for mayor. They're like, you're the hometown guy, you're the guy who's grown up
Yeah.
in this field. And there was so many things like that you want to bring forth. But unfortunately, I found out the reality of those things you're nothing but a pawn. And if you don't do what you're told, you're out. There's going to be a bad billboard like, ask Scott what he really said.com, coming out.
Well,
So
that's the issue with politics
yeah.
in a nutshell, is that, it's the system is in such a way that it's really difficult for one person to get in there and make an impact.
Yeah.
It's the system's kind of rigged against you to really get in there. You go in with all these great ideas, and then you end up just being a cog in this machine that has been running for, decades.
Oh yeah. And you open, they said, here's how it works. You're going to open up just to go off on a tangent, but you're going to open up a foundation. Your sister opens up a foundation, for kids who love soccer camps. And then we create bureaucracy. And then I'm like, wait. I still like, they're like, oh no, this is like crime and greed like you've never seen.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I want. It's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in bringing about positive change.
Yeah.
I'm one man, I'm one voice, you're a second, but these podcaster can go viral. But
Right.
putting the energy out there, look, at some point it's going to change. It's not like it has to change tomorrow. I mean,
Well, that's right. And
it just will.
and that positive energy goes a long way, but you
Yeah.
have to start putting it out there.
Yeah.
And eventually maybe it'll connect with other positive energy, and we'll start to get a change.
I mean, imagine if Google Home really built homes, instead of just something you put in your home. I mean,
Yes.
those things aren't that far off. So, and they'll probably happen in our lifetime. So for now, grin and bear it, suck it up, call me.
Yeah. Well, so if you're, I know you're dealing with, for the most part, these really just enormous projects and homes, but for the average person, if you go in and you're dealing with someone that, they're on a budget, they don't have a ton of money to put into their home, do you have a suggestion of an easy way to kind of spruce up your home, or to make it, or maybe to make your house into more of a home on a budget.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I did that at Begley's house, his line was, we're going to pick the low hanging fruit first, and then we go for this, and then you get the branch, So, yeah, I mean, those things are simple, and I do them for my house. I don't live like my clients do. I don't know if I want to be honest, it's a lot of work.
The overhead on a house like that is hard to imagine.
I mean, just the maintenance on these things is insane. It's like I'd rather be doing the maintenance on some rides at Disneyland, It's a lot of work. But anyway, no. So for your guest, easy things. I know they sound obvious, but like lighting, huge thing. Changing lighting, paint colors. It doesn't cost more to pick the right color, and what I like to do is fun colors, and I don't mean like pinks and blues and greens, like stay away from that, but sometimes like a really dark blackish, blue or something on a wall is really cool. Things like that, thinking outside the box. There's things like just trimming out your mirror, in your bathroom, little finishes. There's so much, one can do, but I would say the most important thing is, it's not about the materials that you use. It's not even so much about the quality. You can get away with that. It's about having an overall picture for the entire home. And, take everything, your ideas that you want, idealize them, theorize them, memorize them, and put them in a box. Here's the kind of, I like this beautiful rift grain oak with a little grain I can see on it still. I like this little piece of brass. I like the little blue, reminds me of the boat that I grew up as a kid. I like a little hits of silver, maybe a little piece of, and you put it in a box, right? Take a picture if you can't take the box with you. Go shopping, and just imagine everything that you're picking in your house can still fit in that box. You can go to the dime store, you can go to garage sales, you can do anything you want. As long as it all fits in that box, your house is going to look spectacular. And make sure that you don't put more than can actually fit in the box, so if you start cluttering it, we have a different issue. I mean, it's not about quality. It's not about quantity. It's not about opulence. It's about consistency. And that one theme, gets you in the door. That's your ticket. If you see that, then you look around and you're like, why do I like this? But you can also walk in a home that's just so overly done, so opulent, the Venetian crystal and on and on and on. And, you don't even care. You don't care about it to look. You're just like, I got to get out of here. I got gold here. I got some Venetian glass chandeliers over there. I got some marble, it's like, get me out. And you don't even recognize how well it was done. So that's an inexpensive thing to do. Consistency.
Yeah, I like that.
Put it in a box.
Ed is a good friend of ours, and he's such an interesting man. Was it a challenge working with him because he's very green, or did that make it easier?
Well, let's see. I'm just thinking all the things you should say and not say. And they're all respect. No, I love Ed very much, but we had a lot of just inside jokes that just were coming to mind. But working with Ed was really a pleasure. It was one of the highlights of my life, and that's the truth. It was a really special process. I told him honestly that I was a little too maybe feeling aware to be green, and just to kind of jump in the boat of just following, let me get on that bandwagon and like, let's go green, woohoo, go green. It's just because there was just used in so many ways in the wrong way. And I told him that. And he said, I agree. So why don't you and we sit together, we'll talk about it, we think about it. And so, it's great. Every step of the way, we didn't really follow all the idealisms, but I will say we did get elite platinum, so I guess I did. I can't really say that. Certified platinum, overachiever, but we also kind of rethought how to build a home on this one.
Yeah.
And we spent maybe too much time, more time than we should have. Everything was rethought on this. Everything was thought about. And we did it as if we were doing it from scratch. So, we were checking the VOCs. I'll give you an example. There's you probably, if you know a little bit about this, there's that white pipe that comes out of your air conditioner units. That's the condensation, it pulls
Right.
it out of the air and it drips, and there's always someone's got a rusty pipe, or someone's grass is overly watered over there. They never know why, right? And they're supposed to go down the drain, and you get 5 to 7 gallons per unit of water a day out of those. And
Yeah.
we had 5 of the units there, so we're getting like 35 to 50 gallons of water out of it. I'm like,
That's a lot of water.
why would we want to waste this clean water?
Right.
So we actually had a rain catchment tank that we put in there to catch the rain, but during summer you don't get it. So we had the solar panels on the roof that were recessed. It would then power up the air conditioning units that would pull the humidity out of the air. On the hottest of days, you're getting the most amount of power. So there's like total guilt-free living. It's really, really hot. Turn up the air conditioner. And so it's all running for free. You're pulling all of the moisture out of the air. So you're making your home cool. You're actually collecting it, and then you're having it all run by gravity underground. And then at a certain time that evening, the little pumps work and activate it, and the filtration system goes on, and then it feeds his garden. And his garden is fed, just green all year long, and he's out there picking his vegetables in the evening. It's just such a way of living that's so symbiotic of just, I'm more comfortable. I take the sun, and the hotter it is, the cooler it is inside, and the drier it is, and the more water I collect. How crazy is it that when you need the water the most, it's actually in the air? And who knew that? Right?
Yeah. It's kind of amazing,
oh,
especially in, you're in an area where it's, you've got water problems.
Right.
So if you can be creative about how you're gathering your water, that's amazing.
Yeah. So, it's things like that. It's not breathtaking, but it's like just starting to think along those lines of, how to build a house a little differently.
Yeah.
We had a pump that was put in his bathroom, for his powder room. So, you have instant hot water. And then what's nice about that, nice for the guests to just, oh yeah, love that. But also you're not running the water, because normally you turn on the water, and what's happening is you're running all the water from your hot water tank. Every bit of line's got to run all the way through and empty out. And then I got that first bit that came through, right?
Right.
And so we did like a recirculating line that actually kind of pushes this little thing. We set it up with kind of did a hybrid. There's a little motion detector that they usually put in bathrooms now to turn lights on and off. So we wired the motion detector so it's turn on the pump. So you'd walk in the bathroom, and 15 seconds later, you just got instant hot water. No water left person.
I love that, because we fight with that. You have to wait.
Yeah.
For a few, and you're just wasting water while you're waiting on it to heat up.
And the other, they do have recirculating pumps, but those are ruined. Those things are just running 24/7, just recirculating the water.
Yeah.
For, hey, do you need it? 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 It's like, so, and then they end up going out and they ruin your pipes. So really fun, like to do those things, to get opportunities. I don't know if I think we started off like kind of jumped into this, but I did start off doing architecture. I did interior design. I've done furniture design, lighting design, hotels, restaurants, you name it. So this is just kind of the last, my current journey is building these just beautiful mega mansions for these homes and for clients that love them.
Well, I'm assuming that all of those things that you did before have kind of led to this point. So now you have all this knowledge that you can put to use on these specific areas.
Yeah, it did. And it took that long to get that much patience to be able to work with everybody.
Yeah.
And, humility to work with yourself too. It's, It takes a lot. I mean, it's really to be able to do what we do. Not only do you have to be able to work with the people, you got to understand yourself. I mean, it's pretty. You've been to the store. Imagine, hey, honey, can you like pick up the bread? Can you pick up the strawberries? Oh, I forgot the love on my sorry. But I mean, we're picking up, millions of dollars of worth of things that we have to circulate through our company with
Right.
a wish list from people with people like, hey, I forgot, I, I told you to get this, honey. You didn't say that. Sir, actually, you did say that right here. You're
Yeah.
right. And you're using their money and you're doing it multiple times in these homes and to keep it and to put it all together. Like, wow. I mean, it's such a just buying all the materials and then getting all the people to put it together and then making it match what they want. And then they change their mind. Like I didn't really want that. I was
That's
joking.
what we
No.
do.
I'm like, but that's what it says right here. Yeah, that's you know what? That was yesterday, and today I don't want it, so therefore it's old. It did take a lifetime to be able to do this. It
Yeah.
really did.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You mentioned the Playboy Mansion, so I know you did some renovations there. I mean, when you were doing those, did you have to like keep in mind the history of the area, or when you went in, was it the point to kind of freshen it up and bring it into the present, or was it to kind of call back to the beginning of the Playboy Mansion? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, really good question. And if it helps, I'll give you a little background on that. That mansion, it's a lot of things that we see are reproductions of reproductions of reproduction. And
Right.
that home was built as a reproduction from a family who lived in, New York. But then they were used to live in England, and it's what they remember. And there was my favorite thing, there's like a little hand warmer, for the milkman, but it was never cold enough in Los Angeles to need to for the hand warmer to ever get used. So, you kind of have to go back and understand what that structure was. It was a reproduction, if anything. It
Yeah.
was steel studs, all of it was, and what happened is in 1971, Hugh Hefner goes, "It's pretty hot and sexy, I like it." And not a lot of love in the right places was given. I mean, a lot of love inside the castle, but not a love, it wasn't the right kind of love on that house.
Right.
Yeah, it was, well, I'll hold back comments, but anyway, uh, it was interesting working there. And so, but it did, in order to restore the house, it did take a lot of searching through history just to determine what was used. It's not about, hey, this is how they built back then. You have to take a few steps more and say, this person was trying to replicate something they saw from some period in this period. And you have to like kind of do those steps, right?
Right.
Here's what they were intending to do on a replication. And if they were replicating, they would have tried this, and the materials available at that time only had, XYZ. So this is more than likely what they do. Let's take it to the lab and get it to bingo. That's what they did. It was like the best puzzle you've ever done. It's
Well,
like a
that
two.
has to be satisfying when you kind of crack it
Yeah.
and you're like, here we go.
Yeah. And so once you start to break down the formulas of what it was, how it was built, and what they did, and you find out that, interestingly, all of the facade was actually concrete that was cast in place with this, like, they make it look like a slump stone, but they took a mold, right? Just wood. And they took a shovel and they shoveled it in, and then the top was just kind of rough the way it dried, and they
Yeah.
did that block after block, and they made it. You find some of the forms on site. Um, and so, and finding out, I mean, it was a lot of research to figure out what was done to create that, and then basically took it apart, corner by corner, room by room, and put it back. And then you also had to do waterproofing, and make it structurally.
Right.
And we did a few hidden things in there that we couldn't tell anybody about, and you had to figure out how to hide those. So really fun. I mean, you get over the point of the Playboy Mansion, and it's not has nothing to do, God bless Hefner, but it's just being able to take, the 200,000 piece puzzle and solving that thing. I mean,
Right.
really fun. And it was also good, a little ego boost, gotta say, when I'd leave in the truck. They have those buses that drive down, the street.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's the Playboy Mansion right there on your left, and I'd be pulling out. Hey, it's Scott Diggler. And so every time they pull out, they're all like, "Oh, look," and it just you'd wave. Nobody knows the contractor, but it was fun.
That's terrific. So you've also done some work for Gordon Ramsay.
I did worked on his restaurants, Savoy Hotel in London. Back in the day when I didn't really know who he was. I've done a lot of things for people, I guess, before I knew who they were. I'm too busy working.
Yeah. Has he ever yelled at you?
He was nice. He was actually really good. He was really, really good. When I went out to see Ed Begley, I didn't even know who he was. I just had one of my clients that I want you to meet, one of my friends who's really eccentric.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, don't you do this TV thing or something? Do I know you? He's like, yeah, maybe. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So it's really fun. You just get to meet these like great people. And you're like, I'm talking to one guy. I'm like, you should do music one day. He's like, I have. I was like, you're really good at it. He's like, I'm actually #1 Billboard artist, for 3 years. Oh, that's cool. What's your name? So, we had somebody that came to our office one day, and I guess the Staples Center. I don't know if you're familiar with that in Los Angeles. And now they changed it, some Bitcoin name or something. And he walks in the office and he's walking around and he's like, always wanted to see your office. And I said, oh, great. Older gentleman. I didn't know much. And he had all these rings on, and jewelry and walking through. And he's like, just wanted to say hello. Hi. Heard about you. Hi. He's like, I work next door. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Well, anytime you want to come over, you just check us out. And I said, what do you do? I said, or if you ever maybe want to work here or need anything, you let us know. He's like, okay. I said, what do you do? Like, next door, do you do, I don't know, what do you do next door? He goes, oh, I do little things like I own the Staples Center. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Is that all?
Yeah, I own the Staples Center. I run the biggest, media. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, so I wanted to talk about doing a home, so it's interesting how I feel like when you're doing the right thing for people, all jokes aside, you start pulling that kind of energy and you don't even look for it. It just happens. It comes to you, I never put an ad in the paper, looking for big, expensive, wealthy celebrities who needs home built.
But somehow they found you.
Yeah. And so, or we find each other, and it's good. And I found these people, they're really special people, I know there's a lot of mixed feelings on that, there's the 1%ers, and sometimes you meet the 1% of the 1%ers, but a lot of people I've met are so, they're some of the most beautiful, gifted humans I've ever met in my life. And there's a moment you go, I get it. I get why, I understand why you became a leader, because you were such a giver. You give so much to so many people, and you do so much for so many of us. And that's why everyone sees you as the leader, but you're really following all of us and helping us out. So some of the most beautiful people I've ever met in this industry.
I love that. I mean, the way you approach your work, I think is so great, and you don't seem to get starstruck, which I totally would. I would be terrible at that because I wouldn't get any work done. But have you had a moment? Have you run into anybody where you were just like, oh, and has kind of starstruck you a little bit?
Yeah, I ran into somebody recently, but I promised not to mention his name, but he'd already known who I was. Like, oh, Scott Harris, it's you. And it's like, oh, no way, you're the, But There was a comedian, and I was just excited, but I not really. I mean, look, I mean, it's a really, really tough job. I mean,
Yeah.
what these people do, I mean, there's nothing sexy about it. I mean, it's some of the hardest work you're ever going to do. I mean, the only thing that's sexy about it is the end of getting your paycheck or going to the party. I mean, so
Right.
you know, I expect them, to work 16 hours a day like these people do. I mean, it's grueling.
Right.
Um, I've done a few shows and a few TV things on, oh my God, like hats off to you, for doing that. I mean,
Yeah, it's exhausting.
yeah, I mean, I get that people think they know you just because they see you on TV and just because you're looking out at the screen, they're like, he's looking at me. Are you looking at me? Is that me? He knows me, I mean, I know it's a job for them. And so a very, very tough one in the entertainment industry. And it's also, it's about having charisma and putting out the right energy too. It's not
Right.
just memorizing the lines. So, good on them for doing that. Um,
Yeah,
so
we talk. We've become friendly with a lot of people in the entertainment business over the years, and I always am telling them, when we're on camera, I get you got to have your on-screen personality. I get that. I said, but if we're just hanging out, you can relax.
right.
You can turn that off. But a lot of times they're on so much, and for so many hours of their day, they can't turn it off that easily. They're very guarded with
Mm.
that because they don't want to mess up this persona that they've kind of built up over the years. So it's difficult for them to relax. And I totally get that. So if they can build a sanctuary or a place where they can go and really just unwind and be themselves, good for them.
Yeah,
And I think that's terrific that you're able to help them with that.
yeah, there's a lot of them that, I mean, I think probably with what you're doing, there's less likely to react because you're in the scene, you're being interviewed, it's like your neurons are just like click, click, click. I've already got this. I'm just driving home. I don't even know how I got here. Did I do that interview? I'm sure that's what's happening for them. But when they're doing a home, so it's a little different sometimes, but they can still be guarded.
Yeah.
I try to make them feel comfortable and let them know. I don't want to mention the name, but you're doing this one home for somebody, and she was like, and I want that, and I mean, total diva, right? And when she was done with that, she's like, why didn't you listen? You didn't take, I said, I did. You didn't take any notes down. And I said, well, I didn't need to. Why? Because everything you said isn't really what you wanted. I can hear actually when you were talking, like there's another chain of thought that I could hear coming across. So I actually already know what you want. I have that picture that I've already was grabbing. So while you were talking, I was actually doing a little bit of some kind of intuitive read, and I know exactly what you want. Didn't match, so why waste my time and write it down? And she's like, no one's ever spoken to me this way before. And you start, well, here's what you really want. Let me draw the sketch of and they're like, at that point, they're like, you know what? I get you. It's okay. You can put your
Well,
guard
then
down.
they trust you.
Yeah. They're like, at that point, they're okay. I don't need to, you become family with these people.
Yeah.
That's really, really what it is. You become their family, and you're building one of the most intimate things you're ever going to have. I mean, you spend the majority of your lives in a house in structure. It's, I think,
Yeah.
80% of our life has been inside of a structure. A lot of it is inside your home, especially now, and just housing your family, your wife, your kids, your husbands, whatever, your partners, your parent, whatever, you got in the house, your dogs, your cats, your grandmas, right? Every,
Right.
and it's very personal because you have to make a space that everyone's healthy in, everyone lives in, everybody loves. Um, so you have to become part of the family.
Yeah. I think that's a terrific way to do business. Did I read that? Do you also cook?
I yes, I do a lot of cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I mean, I know everybody
Like you're
cooks.
pretty good at it, right? You're pretty good.
I mean, I've been on the cover of a magazine above the Four Seasons chef as the chef.
That seems like that's pretty good.
I mean, I think that's, yeah, I've been on some shows. I have a lot of working on a cookbook. I have a lot of
Very nice.
recipes that and it's still hobby, I do it with my boys, but I think a lot of it has to do with the photography. My dad is a photographer, and I was also,
Yeah.
so you can get a really good shot of it, your food. You could probably take a hamburger and like, wow, look at the sesame seeds on that. It's really nice, like the glow. So, I think that helps too, is being able to cook it and photograph it. You have to
Yeah,
document.
that's a good point. My
But
my wife always says that I eat first with my eyes. So
yeah.
she's very conscious about the presentation
Oh,
of the
nice.
food. And that's kind of like that. If you can present it, and a lot of times that you don't even need to taste it, and you're like, oh, that's good
Oh
stuff.
yeah. It's like, yeah, 30% of it is smell, 30% of the presentation, and it's like, the taste. But we do things like I just get bored with life because I don't have enough time on my hands. So like we make our own cheese, we make our own sourdough, like dry aged
Wow.
meat, make our own salamis. We like, make home cured lox and
I think I need to just be a house guest at your place.
You're welcome to. You're welcome. I'll build you a house. But yeah. Like, and all ethnicities. Like I'm an equal opportunity cooker. So, one night it's like we'll make our own kimchi from scratch and make a kimchi
I love that.
stew out of it and with pork belly. And then it's another night, it's like Italian. And so, I just it's fun, it's really, it's not that much different than building. I'm taking things, things that grew in the ground. I take a tree, I cut it down. I take a vegetable, cut it down, chop it up, put it together. I get to eat it instead of living in it. So it's not that much different, really.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you do growing up through school? Like when you were going through high school, did you play sports? Did you play any instruments? What were you doing while you were in school?
I didn't have any friends. I had one friend, Brian Smith. I played the flute, and it was because it was the only instrument that my parents said was low enough volume that I was allowed to play.
Okay.
I play trumpet or saxophone, by the way. I'm not the flute player. I was saying. It wasn't my choice. But anyway, yeah, so I played a flute,
Can you
and
still pick up a flute and play it a little bit?
I can still, I'm pretty musically inclined. But, to answer your question, what I would do is I would love to, I mean, sports, no way, like just so not inclined, it was like last pick on the team, it's always like sometimes if you're like second to last, they'll pick you and you're like, dude, I got your back, man. Thanks, thanks for saying.
Yeah, thanks a lot. But I bet if they'd asked you to like design a field to play on,
yeah, but
you might have been first picked.
Yeah, but then yeah, exactly. But then I would leave school and I would hop on the fence and I'd go into every job site I could. I would analyze daily, take my own reports in my head of what they were doing, watch the process.
Amazing.
And I thought it's so easy. Like it's really not that hard. You guys dig a hole, you fill up the Michel mold, and you just put a bunch of sticks on top of it. Your sticks are not straight. Oh wow, not good job.
I think you're simplifying this because I know that even the simplest home improvement projects I struggle with.
There's
a reason that all of us aren't doing this.
It can be so horrible and hard to do if you're disorganized and don't have the right approach. If you understand the basics on how to do it, it is very simple. And it comes from organization, understanding. It's actually, it's not, I mean, I don't think about the building part anymore. And we don't charge for that. That's now free. We only charge for our therapy and the client's therapy is what we tell them. It's all time that we spend talking to the client about what they want and what they don't want and why they think they want it, but they don't want it. The building part's easy. Ish, so, but that's what I did. And I was also pretty good at school. So I would finish a lot of my work, a whole semester's work in sometimes 2 weeks. And then I would return it back to the teachers and tell them that, there was issues with the curriculum. I found a lot of errors in there. And so I answered the answer correctly. And please not grade me down on this because, you know, and then I would go around and try to teach the students how to do the work and teach them that the curriculum that they were receiving was incorrect and it was and
I'm sure that endeared you to all of them.
Well, enough to where they put together a special program. Is at 15, they asked me to leave and said, you don't have to come back. So it's called the Outstanding Academic Winners Circle. They said, we're going to put a few other people in so they know it's not just for you. We're just going to get you out of here. I think you're done. You don't need to be here. It's not your place to be. And
well, so, good for them for recognizing that they needed to challenge you a little bit.
Yeah, so I went to work full time at 15 as for an architect doing architecture.
Wow.
And I was already, I think I started training doing architecture at 12. So I was, had a few years under my belt. And by 18, I was running the office and doing Paul Allen's house, the founder of Microsoft. And,
yeah, it's amazing.
Went on from there. So early start. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just I love to get a little insight into how your mind works, because that's not normal to start working at 12 and you're running stuff at 18. That's not a normal progression. So I think it's really interesting to kind of get some insight into that. You're working, I understand you're working right now on like a monstrous home right now, like a 50,000 square feet type of structure with that. Does it make a difference, the size? Does that change? I know it makes a difference on material and the time, but does that make a difference really on the construction, or is it just a matter of scale?
Well, size does matter. So.
Well, that's what I was trying to get at, but okay.
Yeah, but no, I mean, the reality is the same techniques that you're doing, but it's, you got to put your big boy pants on and go do those things. I mean, it's not we have a number of ones, like it's, there's a thrill. We're doing a wall by the Getty, just first thing. I think it's almost 600 feet long. This
wow.
Like line curve just going around, 12 to 15. It's just beautiful, and that's fun, So if I'm going to work to build a little garden wall in your backyard and, getting some blocks out of my truck versus watching a bridge over River Kwai with these men, it's exciting, it does that. It's like to me, it's a drug. So, to feed the addiction, sometimes to just keep building bigger and more. And, in the right way, though. It's not like I'm looking for it, but it really is. It's encouraging. It seems like it's too much sometimes, to build these. Yeah. We try to do it in ways that are never wasteful. There are so many practices that we use as far as recycling. It looks very wasteful what we do, but it's really not in how we do it. But it does play with the ego a little bit. You have to not mess with the ego, but it's also you got more in. It's like,
right.
Do you want to drive Popeye's little tugboat, or do you want to drive the Titanic today? What would you like? I mean, you're gonna. One's a little safer, but it's just one little mistake, in these things.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal. So it's an awesome responsibility, but it's a way to push yourself. Because if I just stay, you stay in 6th grade for the rest of your life, and you have to keep pushing yourself to new levels, and you learn new things by doing it that way too.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. So when you finish one of these large projects, do you take a day or an evening to celebrate the completion, or do you just go straight into the next thing?
Oh God, I wish. I wish. No. I mean, and it's not like, it's not like it's a movie where you say that's a wrap,
Right.
It's honestly, it's tumultuous getting there. There's a lot of emotions. I mean, everyone's pretty much at the end, they're fried,
Yeah.
They're just, everyone's got a big finger and they're looking to point it at somebody other than, themselves. And it's everything's leading up to it. There's the big aha, they move in and everybody cries, we did it, we did it. It's like, it's very much like childbirth. There's a lot of screaming up until the point of, that day of, and then tears of joys are like, I can't believe this is real. And so you're just a little burned out, at that moment. You're tired, and it doesn't matter. The projects don't start. We have a lot of projects running, so they don't start and stop like a machine. It's not like a train car. So
right.
The next you're sitting at a job, and it's the most beautiful home you've ever did, and you're toasting and everyone's crying, and we did it, we did it, we did it, and you're getting a text or somebody saying, my Toto toilet seat isn't going up and down right now, and my husband's very angry. And you're like, I've got to go do something very important. Here it's the you got to hit the reset on the wash lid. Oh, and so it's
no job.
The auto
Too big or too small.
Yeah, so you don't really have a moment to just sit back and enjoy that. And then look, reality is, you can spend the next 6 months with, hey, we found something, because there's a shakeout period on these homes. They're not one-offs. They're not, it's not a production line. It's not a widget is what I meant. They are one-offs. Right. So you're never going to build a prototype and have it just be absolutely perfect by bringing together all these people and unique materials. So there's a tuning, process that happens for about months. Who knew that that when the detector starts and it was supposed to hit that hot water thing, that it didn't, and I didn't know, and it's set for somebody that's only 6 feet tall, but my daughters walk in and her kids, it's not. Oh, so let's do another one. Okay, for shorter people, so it's just never ending. It's an ongoing process. And by the time
how do you relax? What do you do in the little bit of downtime that you get?
Cooking is a big thing for me. That spending time with my boys, they and I just kind of going in our kitchen that we built, finding some very simple things and making it into something very special. Opening a good bottle of wine. I don't let the kids have any yet.
Well, they got to earn that. They'll get there one day.
Yeah, but that really that does a lot. I also do a lot of writing too. I write for 8 national magazines.
Wow.
Now,
how you do that?
And so that really does relax me too. So late at night, I'll just sit there and I think they call it automatic writing. I was just told, where you just sit there and don't know what I'm writing. I don't know what I'm writing, and then you wake up the next day and you're like, that's some good advice.
It just flowed out of you.
Yeah. And I'm like, the way I do it, I always, and you're like, I should listen to myself more often. That's good. Great. We love that. So that's kind of relaxing. Or learning anything new. If I can learn about how to blow glass or how to reshape steel, or if I'm learning how to do something new, that relaxes me. Makes me feel like I took a step further in life.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Scott, thank you for taking a little bit of time with me and for hanging in there, because it took us a little while to get to this point. But I think what you do is so fascinating. And just like I told you before, the way your mind works, most of us, if we have a moment, we're not thinking, what can I learn to improve myself? We're thinking, oh, I'm going to do something mindless and relax for a few minutes.
Yeah, maybe I should do that. I think I'm going to go do something mindless now. So, I'm going to give it a try. Yeah.
Now, a couple of things, Scott, before we wrap up. Is there anything that you're doing or that you're working on that you want us to know about, or that we can keep an eye out for?
The answer is yes, but the answer is probably not something that's ready to share.
Yeah. Well, so that leads me to the next question. Is I'm assuming you're all over social media. So when that stuff is ready and you're ready to release that, where can we go to find out about it?
Scott at building, let's see, at Scott underscore hair. You know what? I actually am so like bad. I don't even do my own stuff. So Scott,
Maybe in your downtime,
here
you
it
can
is.
memorize some of this stuff.
All right, no, here it is. Scott underscore Harris underscore building. And the reason I can remember is because there's so many new accounts that are being created. And I was like, I got a lot of different ones, but yeah. You know what? I'm just not a big fan of, like, I don't really spend time on social media. I don't really think about it. I don't focus on it. It's, maybe I should, but I
don't know when you'd find the time to do it, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of people like me that are very interested in the things that you're doing. So I'm imagining there's something out there that you're putting out, when you have the next big project, or if you're publishing something or writing for a magazine, you put that out there somewhere where we can see it.
Yeah, and it's got I think I forgot how many millions of Scott Harrises there are, so it's easier to find me through Scott Hamilton Harris,
Yeah.
Or Scott Harris Building, or any of those things, and it just
Scott Harris is kind of like Mike Wall. There's a lot of us out there.
yeah. I actually made it up to number 1 on Google at one point.
Oh, very nice.
So that was exciting, but it was very short-lived. But yeah, so
yeah. Do you feel competitive with the other Scott Harrises out there? Like whoever's number 1 now, are you trying to dethrone them?
Yeah, I mean, but we're talking about Superior Court judges, there was Congress people, it was, baseball players, doctors, and I was like, yes, I made it past all you guys. Supreme Court, I got past it's a name that's got a lot of people in that industry. So, and there's even someone that does exactly what I do, or tries, I should say, with the same name. And so
well, you gotta that on social media, you gotta put the in front of your name. That makes it, well, that's he's also a Scott Harris, but I'm the Scott Harris.
That's why we have the Scott Hamilton Harris.
That's right. That's right. You got to distinguish it some way.
Yeah, but if someone's trying to find me, it's not too hard.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Scott, thank you so much. And you have to come back. There's so much more that we can talk about. You've been doing this for a while, and I'd love to just keep picking your brain. So you have to come back.
All right, deal. Let's do it. I'd love to. Thank you very much, Mike.
Oh, you're so welcome. Okay, Scott, hold on one. The amazing, talented, incredibly busy Scott Hamilton Harris. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I love that one because it was a little different. It's still attached, still kind of attached to the entertainment industry, but it's a different side of it. And I love to do that on this show, to bring interesting viewpoints and different angles that we can look at the entertainment industry. So I hope you enjoyed that. What a mind that he has for this type of work. And then in his spare time, he's a master chef. No big deal. He writes for 8 magazines. No big deal. While I'm renovating the Playboy Mansion and building a 50,000 square foot mansion and a restaurant for Gordon Ramsay, I'll just go ahead and, write half a dozen articles and make this elaborate meal in my spare time. It's amazing. What an amazing individual. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, if this is the first time you've listened to or watched the program and you liked it, we've got almost 500 episodes, and you can really help us out, help us grow. If you go to YouTube under MeisterCon Pod, please subscribe. You can find all of our episodes, the video versions, there on YouTube. If you want the audio and video, you can go to our website, meistercon.com. It'll also let you know if we're doing anything in studio, if we're going on location, if we're covering a convention, whatever we have going on, that'll be on the website, meistercon.com. You can find our audio version anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And if you do that, please also subscribe. Our video version, you have to go to the website or to YouTube, but it's out there. I think today we released episode 465. So we are fast approaching 500, should hit that before the end of the year. Ton of great interviews on there. So please check them out. I guarantee you'll find a ton of people that you like. Like if you're interested in Ed Begley Jr., who Scott has built his house, we've got a great interview with Ed talking about that house and about living green. So you can find that on the website. And he's done, like, I know he's done some work for Kevin Costner. We haven't had Kevin on the show yet, but we had the gentleman that writes music with Kevin for his show Yellowstone, and who has been in Kevin's house. So he has been on the podcast. So you can find that on there, and just a ton of great, interesting guests. So please check that out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again this week. Really appreciate that. Until next time, bye, everybody.